Greetings viewers, welcome to another Mathinator video. What I will be doing this time is SAT practice test number 5, section 3, math, no calculator. And you can find a blank copy of this at collegeboard.org, so that way you can download it, print it out, and work the problems out along with me. Because one of the keys to success on the SAT is to practice, 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 and practice correctly. As you probably know by now, these tests, they test you on a wide variety of math topics, so you need to get all the practice you can, make sure you are sharpening your skills and that you have a very wide-ranging arsenal of knowledge and understanding going into the test. So get all the practice you can, different websites, different videos. Another key to success is to make sure you read each question carefully. Read it slowly, read it carefully, read it thoroughly. Make sure you understand what it is asking you. Take note of the given. Take note of certain wordings and phrases that you will find there. Make sure you understand what it's asking you. That way you can develop a path towards going about getting the correct answer. And make sure you understand how you know when you have arrived at the correct answer. So what I'll be doing, I'll be reading each question one time, and then as I solve it, I want to talk a little bit about the concept behind it, as well as giving other tips and advice on when you see certain things and how to recognize what it means and how to go about solving it. Which of the following is an equation of line L in the xy plane above? All right, starting off nice and simple here, linear equations. And we know when we're talking about linear equations, y equals mx plus b. And then we know that plus b is the y-intercept. And we see it has a y-intercept of plus 1. So that rules out 3 incorrect answer choices. So it has to be dy equals x plus 1. And we can also look at, it has a slope of 1 to 1 also. Okay. The circle above with center O has a circumference of 36. What is the length of minor arc AC? Okay. So each of these angles, all right, we see that they go through the diameter, or they are the diameter, they go through the center. So the fact that they are central angles is very important because there's a ratio between the angle measurement here and the arc length here. So since these are all 90-degree angles, each one of these angles is 1/4 of the total number of angles in the circle. So 1/4 of 360. So that means this arc right here is going to be 1/4 of 36, which of course equals 9. What are the solutions of the quadratic equation 4x squared minus 8x minus 12 equals 0? Okay, so straightforward quadratic equations, solving those. And we look at this and see we can factor out a GCF of 4. So that we're going to have 4 times and then x squared minus 2x minus 3. And now, set equal to 0. And now we want to factor that trinomial. That factors out to x plus 1, x minus 3 equals 0. So then when we set each factor separately equal to 0, we're going to get x equals -1 and x equals 3. B is our correct answer there. Which of the following is an example of a function whose graph in the xy plane has no intercepts? Okay, so just an understanding of graphs. A linear function whose rate of change is not 0. Well, let's look at that. A linear function, if its rate of change is not 0, that means the slope is not 0. So either, and since it's a line, either it goes forever in both directions that way. I didn't mean to make it go through the origin. Either like that, our slope is either positive or negative. All right, so of course a line, if the slope is non-zero, it's going to have at least one, or if it's a line, it only has one x-intercept. All right, a quadratic function with real zeros. Well, what does that mean? A quadratic function with real zeros means it crosses the x-axis twice, so B is not correct. A quadratic function with no real zeros. Okay, so no real zeros means it has no x-intercepts. Either it turns around below the x-axis or above, but it never touches the x-axis, so the correct is C. All right. In the equation above, k is a constant. If x equals 9, what is the value of k? So we have a straight up substitution and then solving. So since k equals 9, since x equals 9, we have square root of k plus 2. That equals 9. All right, so we're trying to solve for k. It's underneath the radical, so we need to square both sides so that we have k plus 2 equals 81, meaning k equals 79. Which of the following is equivalent to the sum of the expressions a squared minus 1 and a plus 1? Talking about adding polynomials. All right, we know when we're adding polynomials, we just want to combine like terms with a squared. We don't have an a term, so we're going to put a plus 0a minus 1, and for our other one we have a plus 1. And of course sum means we're going to add these two, so adding these two we have a squared plus 0a plus a is a, and then negative 1 plus 1 is 0, so it's a squared plus a. They are not like terms, so we cannot combine that any further. Jackie has 2 summer jobs. She works as a tutor, which pays $12 per hour, and she works as a lifeguard, which pays $9.50 per hour. She can work no more than 20 hours per week, but she wants to earn at least $220 per week. Which of the following systems of inequalities represents this situation in terms of x and y, where x is the number of hours she tutors and y is the number of hours she works as a lifeguard? A lot of wording there. All right, so she says she can work no more than 20 hours per week. So we're looking for it. No more than means less than or equal to 20. So we're looking for something that says less than or equal to 20, which is going to rule out A, because that has greater than or equal to 20, and it also rules out D. Now she also wants to earn at least $220 per week. So at least means greater than or equal to. So we want greater than or equal to 220. So which one of our remaining answer choices has greater than or equal to 220? And it is answer choice C. And even though we have the correct answer, we can go ahead and further check. X is the number of hours she tutors, and it's $12 per hour, so there's 12x. Y is the number of hours she works as a lifeguard, 950, 950y. So we have the correct answer there. In air, the speed of sound s in meters per second is a linear function of the air temperature T in degrees Celsius and is given by s of t equals 0.6 t plus 331.4. Which of the following statements is the best interpretation of the number 331.4 in this context? So we have another one where we are interpreting a linear equation. We are in the form y equals mx plus b. All right, so we're saying, and of course y is s of t. Our slope is 0.6, and t plus our b is 331.4, our y-intercept. And of course the y-intercept is the value of the function when x equals 0. Or in this case, it's the value of the function when t equals 0. So having that information in our head as we read the answer choices will help us out. All right, does 331.4 represent the speed of sound in meters per second at 0 degrees Celsius? Well, it says t is degrees Celsius, and if t is equal to 0, that wipes that out, and s of t, the speed of sound, is 331.4. So yes, it is answer choice A. We know B is not correct because 0.6 is the slope. The increase in meters per second that corresponds, nope, that doesn't make sense. Well, and we've already figured, and we already know that A is correct. So let's continue on. All right. Y equals x squared, 2y plus 6 equals 2x plus 3. If xy is a solution of the system of equations above and x is greater than 0, what is the value of xy? All right, we have a substitution here. Since we know y equals x squared, we need to solve for x or y. What I want to do is go ahead and substitute, knowing that y equals x squared, so that's 2x squared plus 6 equals 2x plus 6. Now, we've gotten rid of y, solving for x. We have a positive 6 on each side, so those are going to sum to 0. And then we can divide both sides by 2. Actually, we can divide both sides by 2x. And that leaves us with x equals 1. All right, so if x equals 1 and y equals x squared, that means y equals 1 squared, y also equals 1, which means xy is equal to 1 times 1, which equals 1. A. So when it comes to systems of equations, whether they're linear or nonlinear, as in this case, look for substitution. All right, try to eliminate one of our unknowns. Okay, if a squared plus b squared equals z and ab equals y, which of the following is equivalent to 4z plus 8y? Now this one right here, I'll throw in a phrase I like to use sometimes, and that is you got to have math eyes. All right, some of these, it's a specific topic that you've covered before in class, whether it's something like with quadratic equations or systems of equations, different things like that. But something like this, you don't really have a topic that's covered in class. So you have to have math eyes and just look at it and be able to understand how to proceed and go about the answer. So as I look at this, I see I'm going to have to do some substituting here. So let's go ahead, anytime we have equivalencies like that, just go ahead and try to substitute. So if I substitute a squared plus b squared for z, that means I'm going to have 4 a squared plus b squared plus 8 ab. All right, since all of our answer choices are in terms of a and b. Now using distributive property, that's 4a squared plus 4b squared plus 8ab. Now again, this is where we need to have math eyes. Now that should look, what does that look like? Look at our answer choices. If we put that 8ab in the middle, that's 4a squared plus 8ab plus 4b squared. Now looking at those answer choices, that looks like binomial expansion. Yes, squaring a binomial. So if we square which binomial, we know squaring a binomial, a plus b squared equals a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Now looking at our answer choices, if we, well, let's rule out a. To me, math eyes, C and D don't make sense, so it's going to be B. Now if we expand B, that is a squared, so 2a squared is going to be 4a squared plus 2 times 2a times 2b is going to equal 8ab, and then 2b squared is going to be 4b squared. And I want to write that again in case it got cut off there at the bottom. 2a plus 2b squared. So if we square 2a, that's 4a squared, plus 2 times 2a times 2b is 8ab, plus 2b squared is going to be 4b squared. All right. The volume of right circular cylinder A is 22 cubic centimeters. What is the volume in cubic centimeters of a right circular cylinder with twice the radius and half the height of cylinder A? Okay. Well, you are given the formula for the volume of a right circular cylinder on the front page of this section, and it's pi r squared h, and that pi r squared h equals 22. So now what we're saying is, now we got to look at the volume if we go twice the radius. All right, so we're going to say pi 2r squared and half the height of cylinder A. So compared to cylinder A, that's h over 2. What is that volume? Well, let's find out. That is pi 2r, and we're squaring that, is 4r squared, and then times h divided by 2. And 4 is going to divide out that 2 so that we have pi 2r squared h. Well, pi 2r squared h is everything as we had in cylinder A, except for it's multiplying by 2. So that means we're going to multiply that volume that we're given by 2. So 22 times 2 is 44. Which of the following is equivalent to 9 raised to the 3/4 power? All right. So now we're getting into rational exponents. And rational exponents, hopefully you've learned how to deal with this. 9 to the 3/4. The denominator in the rational exponent is the index on our radical, and the numerator is the exponent on our base. So that's the 4th root of 9 cubed, but that doesn't really help us. Now, what we can do is we can put 9 in terms of 3. So that is 3 squared raised to the 3/4 power. Power raised to a power means we are going to multiply the two exponents. So that is the same thing as saying 3 raised to the 6/4. Right? Now let's go ahead and simplify that fraction, and that is equal to 3 raised to the 3/2. And now we can rewrite that as the square root of 3 cubed. And at this point, we can go ahead and rule out A and B. And really, we can rule out C, because the square root of 3 cubed is not going to equal the square root of 3. So just to finish this off, that is the square root of 3 squared times 3. Our rules of radicals tell us that we pull out that 3 squared, we can write that separately as the square root of 3 squared times the square root of 3. Square root of 3 squared is 3, so that is equal to 3 square roots 3. Whew, all right. At a restaurant, n cups of tea are made by adding tea bags to hot water. If t equals n plus 2, how many additional tea bags are needed to make each additional cup of tea? Now this one may seem a little strange, but we have to understand we're in the form of y equals mx plus b. So t equals 1n plus 2. It's a slope of 1. So with every increase of 1 tea bag, we need it. Did I say that right? Say that other way. For every additional cup of tea, we're going to need 1 additional tea bag because of that ratio, that slope there, that rate. So B. F of x equals 2 to the x plus 1. The function f is defined by the equation above. Which of the following is the graph of y equals negative f of x in the xy plane? This one here, we have to understand transformations of functions. And transformation, that negative right there means we're going to reflect this function, or reflect the graph of this function about the x-axis. Also with this, we need to understand our exponential graphs. So 2 to the x plus 1 is going to look something like that. So we have this plus 1 means we're taking the graph of 2 to the x and shifting it up 1. All right, so our exponential graphs go through the point 0, 1. So now we're shifting it up 1, so it goes through the point 0, 2. And now we're taking that and we're going to reflect it about the x-axis. So it's going to look a little something like that. So that tells us it can't be A. It's not going to be B. It could be C, or it could be D. Now our key here is the fact that it goes through the point 0, 2, which means its reflection about the x-axis is going to go through the point 0, negative 2, which is our answer choice D. All right, let's go. Alan drives an average of 100 miles each week. His car can travel an average of 25 miles per gallon of gasoline. Alan would like to reduce his weekly expenditure on gasoline by $5. Assuming gasoline costs $4 per gallon, which equation can Alan use to determine how many fewer average miles M he should drive each week? All right, so we have a little bit of complexity going on here. But the thing we're looking at is he's trying to reduce his dollars, all right, dollars per week. Now, he is driving 100 miles. All right, this is a little bit of dimensional analysis here. 100 miles per week. All right. and 25 miles per gallon. So he's got 1 gallon. He's going 25 miles. I had to flip that over, and I'll explain why very shortly. And then he's got gas. Gas is $4 per gallon. All right, so we are trying to get rid of all of our units except for dollars per week, because dollars per week is what he's trying to reduce. So miles divide out. All right, that's why we had to flip that part over. Gallons divide out, and we're left with dollars per week. Now this is where it gets a little tricky, but he needs a reduction factor to come down $5 per week. So now what we're looking at is M miles per week times 1 gallon is going to take him 25 miles times $4 per gallon, gal. We want that to equal 5. All right, the other two, equaling that 95 doesn't make sense. All right, we're trying to reduce it by $5 per week. All right, so now once we divide everything out, miles divides out, gallons divides out, and we're looking at M times 4 over 25 dollars per week, which is answer choice D. And that ends our multiple choice portion. Now on to the gridded responses, free response. Maria plans to rent a boat. The boat rental costs $60 per hour, and she will also have to pay for a water safety course that costs $10. Maria wants to spend no more than $280 for the rental and the course. If the boat rental is available only for a whole number of hours, what is the maximum number of hours for which Maria can rent the boat? We have another y equals mx plus b. All right, so we're talking our y now is dollars, is going to equal m, so the m is $60 per hour, and we're going for h hours plus the flat constant of $10 to take the safety course. And we want that to be, she can spend no more than is less than or equal to, that has to be less than or equal to 280. All right, so now we've got 60h less than or equal to 270. So h has to be less than or equal to 4.5. And since she can only have it for a whole number of hours, the most she can go is 4 hours. All right, 2 times the quantity of p plus 1 plus 8 times the quantity of p minus 1 equals 5p. What is the value of p, or what value of p is the solution of the equation above? All right, so this is just straight up, straightforward solving for p. So we're going to use our distributive property, 2p plus 2 plus 8p minus 8. That equals 5p. And combining our like terms, grouping terms together, that is going to give us 5p equals 6. So p equals 6/5 or 1.2. Either one of those answers is going to be acceptable. Put in your 6/5 or 1.2. Okay. The system of equations above has a solution xy. What is the value of x? So another system of equations, and we have this one right here. All right, y equals 2x. And since we're solving for x, we want to get rid of y. We want everything in terms of x. So that means we can write 1/2 2x, and now y in terms of x is 2x. That equals 21/2, giving us 1/2 times 4x equals 21/2. We can write that as 2x equals 21/2, and x dividing by 2, x equals 21/4 or 5.25. Again, you can write, put in, bubble in, fill in either one of those two answers, and it will be correct. 2x plus 6 divided by x plus 2 quantity squared minus 2 divided by x plus 2. The expression above is equivalent to a divided by x plus 2 squared, where a is a positive constant and x does not equal negative 2. What is the value of a? All right, how do we proceed here? Well, looking at this, I see I have x plus 2 squared and then an x plus 2, and it's equivalent to x plus 2 squared. So that tells me my denominator everywhere through has to be x plus 2 squared. So 2x plus 6 divided by, I don't like the way that 6 looks, divided by x plus 2 squared minus, and now I'm going to multiply numerator and denominator by x plus 2, so that's 2, I'll just write it out, x plus 2 divided by x plus 2 squared, and now that gives me 2x plus 6 minus 2x minus 4 divided by x plus 2 squared. And now combining like terms, 2x, those sum to 0, and that's going to be 6 minus 4 is 2 divided by x plus 2 squared. So the value of a is 2. Last one, here we go. Intersecting lines R, S, and T are shown below. What is the value of x? All right, so as I look at this, I'm thinking the exterior angle theorem. All right, I've seen that come up a few times in these different SAT practice tests. Our exterior angle theorem tells us we have this triangle right here, and if we extend those two legs of the triangle, the exterior angle theorem tells us that this angle measurement is equal to the sum of these two exterior angles away from it. So since we are given 23 degrees, we just need to figure out what is the measure of this angle right here, and then x is going to be the sum of that angle and 23. Well, the other thing we have is a straight angle. This is a straight angle, so it's equal to 180 degrees. So 106 degrees is given, which means this angle right here is 74 degrees. And now I know x is the sum of 74 and 23. So x is equal to 97 degrees.